Ukifika kwa M-Pesa, weka paybill number 440440. Weka paybill number 150150. Account Daka. Amount weka kati ya shilingi 20 na shilingi 2,000. Get your wins every 20 minutes. Tatua instant wins na Daka.
Ndio nashangaa mbona bizi yangu iko na wateja wengi. Siri ni moja. Stock ikiingia, mi hubonga na makastoma wote at the same time.
Same time?
Yes, siri ni InTouch Fast Bulk SMS. Click send, all my 5,000 customers wanapata notification ya new stock.
Reach millions of customers instantly with as low as 5,999. Don't just complete, dominate. Call InTouch Fast today and supercharge your business. InTouch Fast Limited. Our touch, your growth.
At MKU, we believe education goes beyond the classroom.
This is for the dreamer, the go-getter.
It is about engaging with ideas, questioning assumptions, working collaboratively, and finding creative solutions to the challenges of our time.
Intech is in progress. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
Morning routines, daily hustle. But there's always time for the game. Some go by instinct. Others run the numbers. Some live for the thrill. Some play chill. No matter who you are or how you play, only emotions count. This is your moment, your move, your success formula. Bets for everyone. Reveal yourself. 1xBet.
The following program is rated GE. It is suitable for general family viewing.
Today I started differently. Generally, I start my story. Today, I'll give you my story briefly. My story is quite interesting, actually. It's actually a case study at the Strathmore Business School, Lagos Business School, and I think also at the ES Business School. I'm not sure if they took it there. But a lot of university students, not university, AMP is Advanced Management Program participants call me, or owner-run management. Guys from Nigeria send me a message with a screenshot. I'm doing your case study, which is part of the thing we need to do. We need to encourage more African case study. So when I started my business 25 years ago, my first business was 7C Technologies. And the challenge then was getting competent. The challenge was getting competent people to work for you at the right price points. So here you're a startup. You're operating from a small room. You're convincing a guy who works for a company that has been here for ages. Some of them are multinationals that either came in like IBM, then left and came back. So you're 20, I'm 25. I'm trying to convince a guy who's 45 to work for me, and he's telling me, hey, how much do you want to pay me? How is that going to work? So there was a correlation between the solution I was trying to offer the market vis-a-vis the kind of skill set that I required. I required significant level of high-level caliber resources then in the IT space to work for us, because then what happened, because we never owned the technology then, it was owned by IBM or owned by Microsoft or owned by Cisco or owned by Oracle. You had to have significant level of capability for them even to allow you touch their products. So it was there was a connection between skill that you have in a company and these companies accepting for you to even touch their products. Because remember, some of these solutions are run in banks, are run in power companies, are run in telcos. So they're not going to allow you to sell in the market. And remember, most of these companies were not setting up shop then in Kenya. They were coming through what we call reseller network. That was how we started our business. And I remember one day sitting in, I had a project in Kigali with the defense and the central bank. And I tried to hire this engineer who never used to show up. He was the only qualified guy in my projects. Then one day I'm there, the central bank governor is calling me, where is your people? But the guy has gone drinking. He forgot about the project. He's now deceased. But the guy I was in the middle of a project. This guy is my most valued talent. And the guy is not there. So I'm as good as this guy. So the image of our business is highly connected to the individual. Imagine I'm in the middle of a project, okay, in Kigali for the central bank. Same thing happened to me. In the middle of a project for the defense bank, again, same thing happened. So I have to fly to India. One thing I'm thinking, how do I solve this problem? There are no Kenyans capable of doing this. I flew to Bombay. I Googled a company, checked what they were doing. I went to Bangalore. I'd never been to India in my life. Went to Bombay. Bombay, you know the airport. From Bombay to the airport that takes you to Bangalore, there's a different airport. I ended up being taken by one of those rickshaws, one of those companies there. Those guys tell you, taxi. I just got into it, dragged me into some dodgy hotel. I slept at night like this for 3 hours waiting. My God, are they going to rob me? Went back to the airport, went to Bangalore, hired my engineer, told the engineer, I'm going with you now, like a package. The guy was called Balvinda. Till today, we are very good friends. Balvinda Singh. Mr. Singh, tell Singh, we have to leave now. We have to go to Rwanda now. Because remember, this is a defense bank. Things have taken so long to be implemented, they're not even looking at me. Those days they would come, they would give me VIP treatment. Now everybody looks like me, like you guy. You told us a solution. Where is it? Eventually the engineer comes down after some yellow fever or whatever. We go to India and he solves my problem within a day and a half. And that's how I became the largest company in Rwanda as an IT company, because we went now to all banks selling this solution. All banks selling this solution. It was something nobody had ever done in the Rwandese market. And it's funny, and I think the Rwandese people, definitely a lot of them who worked for me then have become very successful businessmen, because then it was year 2000. And you remember then it was, when we went to that market, what Balvinda did, we went to the telco, in the telco data center room, and found a new switch that had never been commissioned because of genocide. So the switch had remained there, brand new. Nobody had ever even configured it. So Balvinda, my friend Balvinda, configured it, and that became our first ISDN, what you call a digital 64K link in Kigali. And that's how Kigali started doing what you call wide area networks. Understand? That's how story. So in one way, it's a combination of entrepreneurship and having the right talent. So Balvinda and I used to carry him like this everywhere. And he was vegetarian, and Rwanda had no place for vegetarian. So I even told the restaurant, now listen, you have to learn how to do vegetarian burgers. So we would go do cheese, nini, whatever. I told Balvinda, you have to stay with me 2 weeks. Okay, so Balvinda survived on vegetarian burgers. In Kigali, then it was 2000. You can imagine how Kigali was in 2000. So I have good memories. Then when I came back to Kenya to try and implement this business in Kenya, interesting enough, I realized I also required resources. Same problem. People trying to hire people from large companies, coming to my company, they're giving me salaries. I'm wondering, can I even afford this? You just pay yourself just enough to pay rent. Okay, you're an entrepreneur, just to pay rent. Now the guy is telling you I need, then he comes with my baby. I just got a baby. I say, baby, do I even know? Because now you become Baba and Mama. The guy says, my mother, my child, my wife. I say, now what do you mean? Me, I'm 25. You're 45. Can't you manage yourself? But I realized you become Baba and Mama to this individual, right? And then I realized I cannot do this anymore. It's too much. So one day I'm leaving the house. And I decide, what the heck? What is this? I'm tired of this nonsense. So I drive to JKUAT. I just wake up in the morning. I take the highway. I used to live in Kileleshwa. I take the highway. I end up in JKUAT. I sit in the server room. I tell the guy, hello, Mr. IT guy, show me students that show enthusiasm come into this data center to help you in school. The guy said, I've got 5 or 4. I said, call them. So he called 5 of them, okay? They came to me. We had lunch together. I told them, guys, this is what I want to do. I'm thinking of getting resources. You guys are in 3rd year, 4th year. Can we work together? So they listened to me like, is this guy? Who is he talking about? But luckily, I had a good car in the parking lot. I had an Alfa Romeo I just bought, brand new. So what happened? I think they saw my car. They said he looks serious. Okay, so they figured out this guy looks a bit serious in 2000 and now 2 maybe, or 3. So what I did, I convinced them. I told them first, you 4 guys, give me 3 people. If I gave you 5 million shillings, which I never had anyway, if I give you 5 million shillings, tell me 3 more people you'd come with to do this venture with. So what I did, every time he told me a name, Farah, Catherine, Manish, I would say this Manish's name is appearing 3 times. Farah's name is appearing 3 times, 4 times. Catherine is appearing 5 times. So I knew Catherine is a very popular person amongst this peer group. So I would make sure Catherine is brought. So that's number 5. Then I know Manish is brought number 6. Then amongst themselves, they refer to each other. So now I had my 10 star employees. Not star employees, I never call them star guys. It was like an AI of sorts, you can think. I was doing my AI of sorts, right? So I tell these guys, listen, on weekends, you guys come into my office and I start showing you guys technology because I realized that curriculum then was very disconnected, very disengaged to what was the reality. So you hire a guy who has just graduated, but you have to train him again because he's not up to speed with what you're talking about, right? So I said, okay, these guys, I need to train them before they come out. Because if I train them when they're in with my company, when they're graduated, I'm going to pay the price, I'm going to be paying salary, plus pay them, then they're going to quit on me. Because they're going to then become very valuable. So I brought these guys in their 3rd year. They started working for me. They would come on weekends. Even Sundays, would go projects. They would help them. I would work with them. So when they graduated, okay, I think I took some 4th years and 3rd years. When they graduated, most of these first-class students came to me to work for me, as opposed to going to PwC. But then I realized I could not afford the salaries PwC was offering. But also I realized I need to convince them in their soul, in their own DNA, in their minds, for them to come and work for me. Because remember, it's also a very family-oriented affair. You graduated. You're going to work for who? Who is that? Like, even they ask you at 17, what are you guys talking about? You need to go to PwC. Stop it. Okay, you have to go for whichever company you're working for. So I had to compete. The competition between me and the employee was their family and me and my brand. So I figured out I need to deal with this issue. So I figured out what is it they want, money in the pocket, correct? So I figured out that if you give this, money speaks. At the end of the day, you need to understand what's their Kool-Aid, as Farah was telling me. Is it money? Is it impact? They don't care about impact at that point. So I figured I need to put money in their pocket. I said, how will I deal with this? So I figured out, what is it when you leave university? What is it, that one thing that you need? You get a house, you get a TV, you get a fridge, yeah? You get couches, the usual nonsense, right? You go through the whole life cycle of life, right? And then most likely even stay with a relative who stays maybe an hour away from where you stay. So you're spending 2 hours on traffic. So I said, okay. So I made a drastic decision, which is why it comes to the issue of experience versus experimentation. So I began experimenting. So I used to have an office in where Electric Avenue is. Do you guys know where Electric Avenue is? Havana, there. So I had a small floor there in a building called Delta, what was it? It was called Bandari Plaza. So I brought these employees. I got them houses. I rented houses, 6 houses, 5 houses, 6 or 7, I can't remember. At one time we had even 10. I put 3 people in each house. 3. So I said, this house, you have 3 people. I got a maid. The maid would be sharing, or house support would be sharing across multiple houses. I provided food. So they would buy from Nakumat. So those guys would go and manage. So one guy is managing 3 houses like that, like that, like that. So these guys were living walking distance from the house, from the office. 5 minutes, 7 minutes. So there's no more traffic in the evening. No more 2 hours. So maximum commute is 14 minutes. So I knew I'd gotten from these guys at least 3 hours of their additional time in their life to now use that effort to learn. So I said, what will I do with these guys? In that extra time, I'm going to push education down their throats. So I invested significant amount of money in equipment, training, material. I had like a whole like library and equipment and server rooms. So I said, these guys, in the extra time, they're going to be in this place. But then I told them, I convinced them, okay, that what's the total amount of money PwC would pay you? 60,000. Minus rent, minus transport, minus this, you'll be left with zero. So I told them, for me, you're being left with 30,000. Because every other cost I've taken care of. So what's your problem? Aren't you better off with me? They all agreed, yeah, it makes sense. Let's move. So they all came. Now what happened, that became a culture and a cult. I call it a cult. It became a cult. So everybody would say, we have to go and work for 7 Seas. Everybody would say, we have to go and work for 7 Seas. So I got the top students. And now what happened? They are staying in the same houses. So it's easier to shape culture. Yeah? Because from day one, you're telling them, we don't have to conform to what the world is telling us. We can do it differently. These guys became like my brothers and sisters. And think about it, I'm 27 or 29, and I'm employing these guys at 23. So our age group's not far apart, but they're looking at me. So there's a level of admiration. Together we are building. This thing we have to build. So I agree with you, culture. We have to blend it, right? So at some point, I've got like 40 of these guys, women, smart ones. Today, some of them are PhD holders. Some of these guys run their own businesses. Some of these guys are senior directors for some of the largest corporates here. Some of these guys are working for Fortune 500 companies. Some of them work for Amazon. These guys started with that journey I just told you. And I infused in them what I believed as my culture, my personal belief of what I want to do. Now what happened, we became, overnight, we had the highest level of competent people in the country at the youngest age. So where you to take companies like 5 years to become gold certified Cisco or Oracle certified or Sun certified, we did it within a year and a half. Against traditional players that were there for a very long time. So what happened? How did that transform our business and culture? So what happened, I got significant level of loyalty from these guys. I'll be almost became like a cult. It became like a cult. If you have not worked for 7 Seas, you don't know where you've worked. So university, everybody is talking about what we've done. Then immediately in their own mindset, having lived, now they're living in Westlands, they're understanding their lifestyle. I began connecting their pay directly into their level of certification. So I told you, if within 6 months you got me to become a platinum partner with Oracle because of the capability, I will double your pay or I'll increase your pay as you went along. So you started at 30, but within a year you could even earn 150,000 because I knew I was saving significant amount of savings from the discounts I got, right? Now what happened as a result, guys just put time in reading and just trying and everything. So that then translated into us becoming top-tier brand, top-tier partner for all these brands. That then translated into finally being allowed into the door to some of the largest corporates to do work. So my biggest validation was on one day we went to Safaricom. Safaricom, I don't know if you know, there's a new annex building. There's where the CEO sits. They had just put up that building. Okay, it was brand new. They were coming from where near I think Sarit Center is. That's old building, and we pitched. I remember pitching for this project. It was I think a couple of $100,000. It was a whole building automation. It was a big thing. It was a big deal. And I remember us pitching against multinationals from South Africa, guys who have been there. My guys, when we went to pitch, you meet each other in the hall, in the corridors. My two guys I look like, we have just come, we have just tried to look smart, the tie, so we can still get our ties together. But anyway, I told the guys, be courageous. We can win this battle. Don't worry, we will win it. And we are sitting in the lobby like this. I remember the CEO of this multinational coming and looking at these guys, like, these guys, hey, where are they coming from? Who are these guys? But I said, guys, you have the knowledge. These guys have just the attitude or whatever they want to call it. Because now, there's only how much I can do to get these guys to upside and speed. We went and pitched for this job, but the guys were so good, was so amazing. The IT director manager then was South African. He went and said, it's unbelievable. I've never seen black kids in South Africa. This cannot happen. With so much competency, so much capability. Told the boss, when I told Michael Joseph, I have to award this contract to these guys. Just for me, just for my own emotional state, just to see if these guys can crack this thing. Because what they did, even for me in South Africa, is and cannot be done. I've never seen it. So they gave us the project, and we did the project like perfectly. I believe it or not, all the other Safaricom buildings, from call center projects in Mulolongo, in everything, we did everything after that. With the same guys. Now the team grew massive. So today when I go to Safaricom, sometimes I go there, I find guys that came from this university program. Some of them are directors. A director of tech, maybe director of security came from that program. Can you believe it? That's how they started. Others are doing business for Safaricom. So for me, the way I look at talent, and from my story, and we'll talk about it, and there are many other stories I'll tell you after that, which was once you had this set of human beings working for you, they became like a cult. Now the challenge was trying to bring middle management to them. I think you guys would understand, Farah and Catherine. So imagine trying to bring a middle manager to manage these guys, 40 of these guys, 50. They are a cult. It's a culture. They gave middle managers in my business so much hell. The guys would come look at them and say, this guy, who does this person think they are? This one? This one comes from a multinational. We are the owners of this place. We're the owners of this business. What are they coming to tell us? Maybe they're coming to come and create structures. They're trying to create processes. But they're saying, who is Catherine? So they say they wish to set you to fail. So it took a long time for us to figure out how to solve the middle management engagement with this kind of guys, because their culture was so rich. The guys who came out from there had their own culture. It took a very remarkable talent manager who took a very different approach when she came, and she became very entrepreneurial with them. She's the only one who was able to crack this engagement. Today, when I look at her, because of going through the fire with us, she's one of the largest, she's one of the top achieving talent directors for a global multinational. Having moved to Europe, having moved to Singapore, she became the top director for a global multinational. Because then she took her entrepreneurial, she always tells me, I took the entrepreneurial capability from your business to a global multinational. So when I sit in a meeting, I would say my solutions would be so entrepreneurial driven, they would ask me like, what? What did you just say? How did you do that? So for me, the story is, and it's back to culture. How do we drive culture? And as a founder, how do you drive this culture? And how do you build a cult of people who love your business so much that they're willing to help you build and scale? And yes, I can tell you today, some of these guys still maintain a massive WhatsApp group. Even after leaving my organization, they maintain a massive WhatsApp group where they have conversations. They've not allowed me, but I know they're. I see them in funerals or whatever, or weddings and everything else. But then now that brings us to that conversation of the why, right? So we've looked at.
Can I comment on what you said? It's so interesting. So
yes.
This is free flow, because I've been sitting here, as you said, reflecting what you're saying, and I think what's so interesting is, even from my experiences, and I'm structured. We come from a structured world. You actually created a structure to allow for culture to sit within your leadership. We always talk about culture comes from above. What does that mean? The problem I see, so what you did right there from what I'm hearing is you first you identified the problem, and with talent, what you did was you created a system for them to succeed, which was you saw what was it that they needed, but more importantly, you brought in coaching, a structure for coaching, right? And you gave them performance merits, right? An ability to grow, to empower. And you gave them, it sounds like, you gave them empowerment to do what they needed to do. I think where it goes wrong is, and my experience in a lot of startups is you just come and you sink or you swim. There's none of that. And I think that's one change we can make in entrepreneurial organizations is identify. So what you did was you actually created, there's a big debate between when I look at hiring for entrepreneurial companies that are small or SMEs to multinationals. And the issue is how much structure there is. And I think entrepreneurial ventures feel that if it's too much structure, it's going to be too slow. We need to be fast moving. Yet you were able to do that within your organization to build some structure to bring in that talent and nurture that talent. And I think that's great from what you did. I mean, I think that's the way to go.
And a great thanks. And I think that even you've brought us to where we are exploring. So really, it's an open flow for you to then start interrogating some of the conversations we've had, right? And I think you've just analyzed my situation and why we came to where we are. We've other conversations we'll have in terms of organizational maturity, because there is a connect between the founder getting mature, okay, based on your age and where you are, and the organization becoming mature. You could be too early, and the maturity of the company could also be too early or too late. So, because what happened after that, there was also an organizational maturity conversation we're going to have as we go along. But it's an open flow, and I'm really curious, Manish, you now are building a business, which is scaling, and it's becoming a global business. From a people point of view, based on what we've talked about, let's now explore what is working for you, what has worked. Maybe it could be a trade secret, but what has worked. But again, when I look at your business, I think I understand it a bit. I think AI is going to change a significant part of your business, my assumption. Right? So it'll be great to know from you how that is going. And Catherine, for you also, again, based on the business you're currently doing, placement of people and everything else, that will also be very interesting to understand. And also from Farah and from your point of view is also trying to understand what are your biggest placing challenges you're having, and then really understand why those challenges are there. So any of you can go for it.
Yeah, so I think, I can start, and I think, we had a discussion about, it's a very interesting conversation about hiring and how you hire and how you build a culture in a startup versus a large corporation. And I think, you're right, there's like a fundamental kind of agreement, generally consensus that, you can't plug and play kind of two different cultures, you can't plug and play people. I think, again, you also have to define, like, what does a startup really mean? Like, today my startup has 125 people. Is it really a startup? Like, at what point my startup doesn't stay a startup anymore? Like, at how many people, number of people? So my previous organization that I was running had about 80 people. So is it a large corporation? Yeah, in terms of size, it's a large global corporation. But I think, like, one of the things that we did was that one thing I think there's general agreement is that once the kind of size becomes really, really large, you need kind of structures, to create in place. So I said, okay, now this is always going to happen. That, Michael, you talked about it, right? It's a very interesting conversation that when the organization becomes big, like today you're managing a team of 10 people, you can have as a founder directly connect with them, manage them directly. When these 100 people become like 1,000 people, then what happens, right? So I completely understood that problem because I've been in both sides of the spectrum. I've worked in large organizations and startups. So what I did, when I was in WPP Scan Group was that I said, okay, as we become large and as we grow, we're going to need processes, we're going to need middle management, we're going to need kind of like more HR involvement. I just did not like that. I didn't want that to happen because I was like, the moment we start doing that, we're going to sort of become like robots and, like you lose the spirit that has got us there. There is a spirit, the cult that you talked about, like that, we're all in this together, that energy that is there, and that energy starts to get sucked out of you the moment become like more structured as an organization. So I said, okay, we can't let that happen, but we are becoming large, so we need to do something about it. So what I did was that I created 4 mini organizations within the large organization. So we said, okay, we're a team of, let's say, about 1,800 people. So I created 4 different business units. So we were in a business where we were handling clients like Safaricom that Michael handled. So we had Safaricom, KCB, Equity Bank, so on and so forth. So what we did was we said, we're going to create 4 mini startups, and I'm going to appoint you as a CEO of that startup within the large organization. Now, these are self-managed, self-run organizations, and these 4 people have been empowered to work like the way I would have wanted them to work as a CEO of the organization. So now you're able to create small mini organizations within a large organization. So you allow that startup culture to kind of continue without the hassle of bringing. So now I'm just managing 4 people because like there are 4 kind of CEOs. And this is what I've done with Cradle as well, that, we have 125. I don't know at what point we start getting called a large organization or a corporate. I hope that day never comes, and I'll probably make sure that day never comes. But I think at some point it'll become a significantly large size organization. So I think I've just carried forward that philosophy of creating mini micro organizations within a large organization that can work and run independently, where I think a lot of the work as leaders, what we have to do is to make sure that there is perfect harmony and alignment between us and this kind of bunch of people. I don't call them mini managers. In fact, we just finished a 3-day workshop, with my leadership team, and they're all printing their own cards as CEO Cradle. So I told them that, like, the first thing I told them, in my workshop was that CEO is not a title, it is a mindset. Okay? And I'm very careful. I think I saw one of your notes was like, why don't we have employees work like founders? I don't expect employees to work like founders. I mean, as founders, we have put everything at stake. I put in all of my life savings behind this company. The skin in the game for me is never going to be the same as the skin in the game for a young employee. So I don't expect them to work like founder, but I do expect them to think and act like a CEO of an organization. We also say that we are not a family. So we had this very interesting conversation with my team, said, we are not a family. We are like a well-organized sports team. We have come together to perform a function. This is what we need to achieve as a milestone. And we're going to put together an exceptional team of people, make sure that extremely well trained and well coached. Of course, there's a difference between training and coaching. There's a lot of focus that we're doing now in the organization on coaching and not just training. And then going to build this team together to achieve the goal that we want to achieve. So within in the last 2 years, we've grown from I think 30 people to 120 odd people. We have now 11 offices in 9 countries. So there's been a very rapid expansion. And typically the conversation is when you have this rapid expansion happening, structures break. And nothing has broken so far. Because, I think what to your point for us, how you onboard people in the organization. What was the first conversation that you had as a founder with that person when you hired him or her to start with? Was there a mission alignment in that point at the get-go? Were any false expectations created? So my typical hiring formula has been, I have a very strong belief that people generally like to be inspired. I think people fundamentally want to be inspired, so we don't call them human resources, we don't call them anything, we just they're your people, you're your person, human being. I think people fundamentally want to be inspired. I think inspiration has been sucked out of human life from the way we've been brought up, because anything exciting that you really wanted to do in life was told you not to do. It's stupid to do that. Why do you want to be a DJ? Why do you want to be in a music production? Why do you want to be a musician? Become A, B, C, D. So, we've been brought up in an ecosystem, in a world where the world doesn't allow you to fly and doesn't allow you to be inspired. So it is not their fault. It is not their fault that they're not inspired and you expect them to work like founders and give you everything. But I was always telling, so in my leadership meeting, I said, guys, it is not your fault. Look at the previous organizations that you worked in. What was the culture in that organization? How did your parents bring you up? Did they infuse that energy and empowerment and enthusiasm in you? Or did they structure everything for you and told you exactly what to do in any parts of your life? So I said, guys, this is not your problem. You've not been in a system. And actually, a lot of my team members, after the workshop said that, I've never had these conversations. We never even spoke to our CEO, forget having conversations like this. So I think I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be an extreme optimist. I'm an extreme optimist. I see massive optimism with people. I have not had one case of one person who's left us, we didn't want him to leave or her to leave. Everyone has stayed loyal. In my previous organization, everyone stayed loyal to us. Because we just kind of created that ecosystem where you're this is the very best place to work in. Not just in terms of compensation and rewards, but also in terms of recognition, in terms of being valued, also in terms of being inspired. So just to summarize, the conversation that I was talked about was that, we see this problem when you go from a small organization to a large organization. You need structures, but there's a way to not have those structures created. I think the bare minimum, we don't have we don't have an HR person in our office. We don't have a legal person. We have no one. We just have 3 co-founders. And we perform all those functions that are required to kind of like, I just don't even like the word human resource management. It's just like, it has such boring words in it. Management is such a boring thing. I mean, leadership is such a better word than management, and it's like human resource. So basically, when the moment you call it human resource, you're saying that you are a resource in my organization, a resource that is hired to, serve a purpose. And it's a transaction relationship, because a resource is a transactional relationship. So like, we stop seeing them as human beings. And I think like all relationships are fundamentally same. So I tell my team members that, how would you have handled this conversation with your boss if this was your spouse? Why do relationships break down? Because you don't communicate enough. You're not honest about what you're feeling. You let things slide away. And I told them, nothing slides away, it stays. If it matters to you once, it will never slide away. It will always stay with you. So don't say that I'm going to let it slide. It doesn't slide, it stays and builds up inside, and one day it comes out as a resignation. So we encourage like a culture where, there is like brutal, honest conversation. We call it radical candor. Radical candor is, I care deeply and personally about you, and this is both, from both sides, but I'm going to challenge you directly. I'm not going to mince my words, but I'm going to give you feedback, and the feedback would be good feedback or bad feedback. Whatever it is, we're going to talk about it in brutal honesty, and people can give me feedback and we can give. So if you create that kind of openness and a culture where everyone feels that they can go and tell the CEO that you screwed this up, and then we couple that now with extreme ownership, where no one is allowed to make an excuse at all. Like if you miss a target, or if you don't do a job in a certain way, you have to say that I failed. Like we are telling people, you have to start the sentence by saying I failed. And people have found it so difficult to say, because their first reaction, I'll give you an example, like one person said, my team is not getting an increment, Manish is spending at your end such a long time, you're not responding. So I said, again, you're making the same mistake. You're making excuses for your failure. It was your job to follow up with me till the point this was done. So we have coupled these three things which have worked really well, like in short and principles. We call it the CEO mindset. CEO is not a designation, it's a mindset. So think and work like a CEO. What would you have done if this was a CEO of the organization? And I think that has created a culture of creating multiple leaders within the organization, so the organization doesn't stop scaling because it is so much dependent on me, which also allows me to make myself redundant in the day-to-day running of the business, because I want to be completely redundant in our business. So I can do the next big thing, which is Scale.ai, which is my passion project, which we are launching in September. Second thing we say is extreme ownership. Like you own, there is absolutely no space for any excuse. If you miss a target that is given to you that you're committed to, there is going to be no excuse. Like you can't blame anything for it. So if you lost an employee of 2 employees left the organization, you would have filled it, refilled it. And employees just don't suddenly leave, you see it coming. Anything that good is happening in your life or anything bad is happening in your life, you always see it coming. So why did you not see it coming? So extreme ownership. And the third thing is radical candor. I care about you deeply. I love you as a human being. And we say these words very openly in the organization. I love you, we say it very openly. I said, I really, really do love you. Yeah? I love you because you're playing such an important part in me achieving the mission that I set out to achieve. So you're really important in my life. But I will challenge you directly always. So that's radical candor, where there is a freedom to have brutally honest conversations about what's going right and what's going wrong.
Most leadership programs are built for stable systems, clear rules, predictable institutions, high trust.
What are high trust environments? It's a handshake, it's a table.
But that's not the terrain most leaders are operating in. Here, trust is fragile.
We cannot accept this brand because it doesn't have the word insurance.
Power moves informally, institutions are uneven, capital is asymmetrical. And growth, succession, or visibility doesn't always reduce risk, sometimes it increases it. In these environments, leadership failure rarely comes from lack of intelligence or effort. It comes from poor judgment under pressure. When the terrain is misread, even capable leaders make costly, irreversible decisions not because they are weak, but because the system they are operating from is incomplete. The African Founder Operation System, AFOS, was built for this reality. AFOS is not a course, it is an operating system for leadership under pressure. It is designed to help leaders think clearly, decide deliberately, and act with integrity.
The genesis of this conversation is around understanding what keeps founders breathing and moving and not giving up.
When the environment itself is unstable,
Morning routines, daily hustle. There's
no more excuses. It's time to rise, grind, and own your mornings. Join Coach Shadrach Omer every Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 6 a.m. only on TV 47. Full body workouts, zero equipment, maximum results. Start strong, stay strong. TV 47 Fitness with Coach Shadrach only on TV 47. Looking for the perfect way to kick off your weekend?
Pole. Hiyo ni salamu ya Mluya kabisa.
Tune in to Friday with Betty, the most exciting show on TV.
Betty, one tiaga. Betty, I don't know where this guy's going.
Walikutoka.
From the latest news and trends to unforgettable moments.
I mean, you know, nakubali.
Friday with Betty is your go-to show for a fabulous Friday night.
Theological, meteorologist. What is that word, Willis?
Tune in this and every Friday at 9 p.m. and let's make your Fridays unforgettable. Only on TV 47.
This is Kenya's #1 talk show, Dr. Farika tonight. My name is the Eagle himself. Dr. Farika is my name.
We are flipping the script, but guess what? Or should I say, guess who is taking over tonight's show?
Anyway, furahia umekaa na kasukuma. CP unit ni
Punet. So you guys knew about
Piga.
Sawa basi. Sema, don't give it the whole time.
I don't want to go back to brokenness.
Never.
I just love the high life. Siwezi taka kuimagine ati nimesota.
You'll have to watch to find out. Tune in every Wednesday from 7:30 p.m. Enjoy uninterrupted live streaming of your favorite programs on TV 47 and Radio 47 on the go with our new mobile-friendly website. Experience the future of broadcasting. Visit www.tv47.digital or scan this QR code and stream your way to endless news and entertainment. Welcome to the home of untold stories. Are operating in. Here, trust is fragile.
We cannot accept this brand because it doesn't have the word insurance.
Power moves informally, institutions are uneven, capital is asymmetrical. And growth, succession, or visibility doesn't always reduce risk, sometimes it increases it. In these environments, leadership failure rarely comes from lack of intelligence or effort. It comes from poor judgment under pressure. When the terrain is misread, even capable leaders make costly, irreversible decisions not because they are weak, but because the system they are operating from is incomplete. The African Founder Operation System, AFOS, was built for this reality. AFOS is not a course, it is an operating system for leadership under pressure. It is designed to help leaders think clearly, decide deliberately, and act with integrity.
The genesis of this conversation is around understanding what keeps founders breathing and moving and not giving up.
When the environment itself is unstable,
I've been saying that one of the things we're not doing well, we're not sharing as founders. You know, by what you've just said, you could have helped somebody else significantly who's sort of in the bush right now in terms of trying to figure out why is it not working, why is it working. And maybe, and I'm sure we've got our great consultants, but also great placement people. Sometimes it's lack of having people who just, another founder who can give you this kind of insight. So I think even I've just realized, just validated my thoughts about stuff you know, but you just think, my God, yeah, what he said is exactly, I know it, but you know how you know, but you don't know?
Yeah, people.
Right, that kind of stuff, you know, but you don't know.
But can I say something?
Sure, yes, Catherine.
That is a very good way of looking at it. But the typical entrepreneur, I feel, is insecure. You go and challenge them.
Okay.
You're like, this can work better in this. And he's like, this is the way it's always been done. We will do it this way. So we have to have both mindsets. You are open to people challenging you. A lot of us are not. We are like, I am the vision carrier, I'm the vision bearer. This is how I see it going ahead. And it can take a different trajectory just by one person introducing their thoughts. And they have the best interest of the company at heart, but you're not careful to listen. So that's why I always think that yours is a typical case study, let's put it that way, for people to study. Because I promise you, we say we're entrepreneurs, we want to grow, but you also have a fixed mindset. This is the way I want to go. This is the way I will move forward. In the year 2026, these are my objectives and my goals. You are just part of you helping me achieve my goals. But I will not go out of my way to implement some of the things you've said because they're not part of our objectives. So I feel sometimes the founders are the problem.
But I want to challenge you.
Yes.
You know, and I'm going to be a bit controversial a bit. Yes. You know, as I grew the model I told you, you know, we did 25 years of this. You know, at the moment, 150 people. You know, when you have a high growth company, the kind of people you have are so highly intellectually smart, engaged. So they listen to you. Okay. What are they talking about? What you need to sometimes when you come to me as a consultant, or even as a placement agency, or whatever, the one thing is, I feel that when you come to us, there's a lot of, the conversation is very, very gray. It's gray. I don't know what, very gray. You've not been able to, and really I'm speaking to some of the consulting companies, you're not able to create conceptual frameworks that I can understand. You need to understand, you tell me, if I put in this pipeline A, I will get B here. You just tell me, don't worry, you listen, you have to do like this, somehow it will come from this B. So there isn't, you've not connected for me the input to the output. That's number one. That's what I feel. Number one is not happening. Number two, and far I can also speak. You guys can speak to that because you guys are doing placement. Number two, there's also that thing of that I know my business is unique, but you're trying to straitjacket me into a solution that you think you know. You as a consultant, right? You don't come with an experiential capability. So tell me, when we talked about me going to university and doing whatever I did, which consultant in this world would have given me that idea?
None.
Yet when you do a case study of Toyota, you went to Harvard, what's one case study you read? Toyota. What is one thing Toyota did? Toyota built housing next to their factories. Staff housing. EABL, Kenya Breweries. That whole place where you see Garden City, all the way until their stadium, that place was employee housing for EABL, for KBL, as it grew. So that's why you see EABL where it is. It used to house everybody in that whole ecosystem. That's what some of you guys don't know. If you lived around my place, I lived around there, we used to call it the EABL village. So everybody grew there. So all those were employees that worked for EABL. So the only difference between me and EABL was, as a business, was I had 10 houses, EABL had an estate. Toyota had a campus. In India, you go to China, Huawei have a campus connected to the institution. So coming back to you, and now we are challenging you. It's okay.
It's okay.
Why should I listen to you? Or am I, and sometimes I am listening to you because you've been pushed there by a board member. Because they have decided Mike is a tyrant. Is that correct? We're not going to put you, Mike, you're not listening. You've got too many resignations. We want you to, we are going to bring a HR organization to come and understand what is really broken here. Is that correct?
Yes.
They hire you.
Yes.
You've got a dotted line to a board member who is heading the HR and board committee. So already I despise you half the time. Is that correct? Are you coming to spy on me? Correct?
Yeah.
So what do we do? I already look at you and say, tell me, what are you saying?
Yes.
Then the board member who is there has never even run. There may be an employee, okay, who has never run any business. They receive a pay.
Yes.
So they're busy telling me about HR matters. And I'm asking, like, what do they know this one? But it's okay because it's their money, I say. Sawa, I'm listening. And since they're paying you, I say, it's okay. Now let's put it. Now that's a framework under which we operate.
Yes.
Help me navigate out of that because I can tell you there are very many entrepreneurs today in this quagmire. Manish, how many do you think are in this quagmire? Very many. The board has put a gun. We have to hire a consultant to give you some idea. Yes. We want to be given an audited report of this company, how it's faring. You think they are? And then employees also use that opportunity. The managers use that opportunity, some of them, to decide we are now going to report on the founder. Is that correct?
Yeah,
that's how we're operating.
Yes.
So over to you.
Okay.
Farah, you guys tell me what solution there is.
Okay.
And how do we navigate this?
I first think the first thing is to remove, I don't know what to call it, BS. You know there's...
No, it's BS, it's BS.
Yes, it's BS.
Yes.
Because there's some people who come with an expected result. This is what we want. Even they give you the brief. This is what we want.
But it's my board member who wants the brief.
Yes.
So he has given you some cheat sheet.
Yes, exactly. So they give you that. But it is up to you because I keep saying, I look at the organization as a whole. It is up to me to come and say, will I go with this board member or will I look at the organization as a whole? And normally we start not at the top. We come and we sit with the people who are here. We listen to them, and then you will see they're also a bit afraid. So we are anonymous, even anonymous questions. That is how we begin. Then we also come and say, are these people ready to change? Because you can come and employ me. You have met your KPIs. We have these people who are going to come and give us a report. But are you willing to listen to the change that is needed? Because that mindset, I keep going back to the mindset of the founders. That mindset has to change. You have to be willing to change your mindset. That is the feeling I get. And once we give you, how do you want to implement what we've told you? Will you go with it or not? Because a lot of culture, people don't fit in because your culture, his culture is very good. You can say what you want openly. There are others who will not say what you want openly. So how do we introduce the open door culture? How do we come to this consensus that we can all say what we want? We try doing things like team building. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. But at the end of the day, it has to be the co-founder, the management willing to change. That is the feeling.
But you see, and you guys chime in as you go too far. I think it's changing. I think it's changing with the Gen Zs now.
Yes.
Think about when we grew up. Okay, there was nothing like open door. What do you mean open door?
Yes.
And let's start first, not me, at the business, at my house, at my family house. What, when you say open door with your dad means?
You can tell him anything.
Is that so? Which one? Okay. Now today, we have that.
Yes.
With my son at 14, he's Gen Z, we have that conversation. Is that correct?
Yes.
We never grew with a culture where you could just tell anything to your dad. How? Is that possible?
That is what I am saying.
So how then do you expect me, as a founder who has never grown up in a cultural mindset, that I can go tell my dad anything? Now you're telling me an employee can come and tell me anything. Do you see there's also an issue there?
That is why nowadays there's a lot of coaching, executive coaching, because that is one of the things that they are taught. They're explained to how it benefits you. You know, somebody has to see where is the benefit in me listening to the employee. But it doesn't come automatically. That is why I also say coaching is a must for every level in the business. That is my thought.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Farah, and look, coaching, and I also agree in coaching. But also, I guess, how many CEOs even know they need coaching? And what's the conversation? What's the difference between coaching, okay, peer-to-peer mentoring, okay, and having an advisory board?
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can go for that, I think.
Well, actually, I wanted to comment on the earlier one, but I can also comment on that. So on this approach of hiring somebody to do the talent for you, I think it's critical because I've been, like I said, on the other side. So I've had search firms and recruiting companies, and I've also been an inside lawyer, outside lawyer. The difference is the curiosity and ability to learn the business as a consultant. And the desire to and the time invested. That needs to be done so that you can then know how to give a solution. And so that's what I find sometimes lacking from external consultants. So I think when you're looking for someone, you've got to make sure that they get it. They get where you're going. They get your vision. But they also are not afraid to tell you. Like I've worked with some companies that are like, I want this role, and you look at the organization, and I think that's the value we bring is trying to say, but that role's not going to work. Like you look at the whole structure. So I think as consultants coming in, you've got to do it in obviously a diplomatic way, or you will not be the consultant anymore, especially when the founder feels like they know it all, they know where the organization's going. That's the first thing. And then it depends, you've touched a lot on the points of in the board, say in the board advisory space. So that's more the talent. You know, I'm coming in, providing you a solution. I think it's up to the person coming in to look for out-of-the-box solutions. You might be thinking something, but I'm bringing you someone like, which is kind of what you did. Well, let's go to such and such school, or there's actually another area or another sector that could bring you. So that's why you go to a consultant. It's to open up your vantage point. Like you might be very narrow, But that's what the consultant's supposed to do. So that's why you should. There is that conflict of, yes, the consultant's been hired by the board chairman and you're the CEO, and how do you deal with that? But that's what consultants have to be able to navigate those spaces. They know they're coming in, but the value of the consultant is someone coming in to give you that impartial view. In the board advisory space, and exactly that, we're implementing change, where I've come in to bring in let's help improve the efficiencies of your meetings. We're coming in, the chair has called us, we need to go look at how things are. And it's very sensitive because, we're telling the CEO who's running the board, like, could be done better, you're not efficient, how do you do it? So I think these are it's first the acceptance, I need help, right? If it's an organization. If it's a chairman putting it down the throat of the CEO, then I think it's the consultant navigating that. I don't know if that was some of the things you talked about.
Yep.
But I think there's those are touch points, and it's I think it's up to the consultant to navigate those best with the organization.
So, like to add a few things here. I think a very interesting conversation is that as a consultant you can tell whatever, but CEOs, founders sometimes only want to hear a certain side of the story. They are very kind of firm in their opinion, and I think we've all been victims of that. And I think, I actually have a coach, like I use a coach, and I think it's really been helpful for me. And I'll talk about, coaching versus advisory versus peer-to-peer mentorship. So I'll come down to that question. But I think like one of the things that was really, really interesting for me was that at some point, I was having like a very difficult conversation with Bharat, who was my boss. I said, Manish, you're coming off such an arrogant person. Like you come off as such an arrogant person. And I was shocked because I thought I was the most humble guy in the whole world. So I came home, we were having dinner with my wife, and I was like, I'm so angry. Like, Bharat thinks I am arrogant. I'm arrogant. And my wife just like quietly said, it's like I'm furious, yeah. And she says that, but you are extremely arrogant. And, I did not have the realization. And I think I was around 38, 37 years old. Like I thought I was like a really nice, humble person. So one of the kind of real kind of interventions I created in my life is to work on humility. And I think I struggled, because, when you have a lot of success behind you, it's just relatively harder to be humble. And then I think I just like one thought came to my mind, and it just made it very, very clear to me that how tiny I am in the larger scheme of things in the world. I mean, there's like 7 billion people in the world, more than that now. I'm one of the 7 billion people. And when I'm going to die, like my near and dears are probably going to think about me for a month, couple of months, and no one else will ever think about me beyond 24 hours, and they will go back to their lives. And I think, just thinking of myself of how inconsequential I am in the larger scheme of things has really, really helped me. So like I just keep telling myself that, you come, among the 7 billion people in this world, you come, you play your part, and then you go, and that's it, and then you're done. Like you are a nobody. So like I just keep telling myself how inconsequential I am. So that has kind of helped me stay on my feet and hence be more open to kind of external stimulus. In terms of, what you said, and I think, generally CEOs and founders, and I've worked with a lot of CEOs because in my previous organization, I used to deal with CEOs of Safaricom, of FAPSA, of KCB, like I've met their CMOs, CEOs, everyone. Yeah, it's not... It's like you very few times you find kind of people like humble and look, I'm willing to learn from you. Now, on your question of peer-to-peer mentorship versus board advisory and coaching, yeah. So I have a coach. There are kind of fundamental problems with me as a professional, and one of the things I realized in my coaching program was that every problem is rooted into my personal life. There's some base into my childhood in terms of the way I was brought up. Every problem can be hooked into how you grew as a child. So there's a mentorship program. There's a coaching program I'm part of. Like it's a one-on-one coaching. I used to do a lot of it. In fact, that coaching program is a program that helped me quit my job and start creating. Like because I was extremely conflicted on one side, like the high perks, high quality job, and then starting up during COVID was miserable. So that coaching program really helped me. So I have a coach. The second thing we do in terms of peer-to-peer mentorship is we have a founders meeting every once in a month. So every once in a month we talk we are 3 co-founders, and we talk about 2 simple things. Three simple things. One is what is keeping us awake at night? Like, what's the most pressing problem that we haven't solved for till now? Okay, because when you're growing so fast, like you feel like there's momentum, things are great, but there's always something back of your head, as a founder, that's not working. So we talk about that. The second thing we talk about is how the journey of entrepreneurship is affecting our personal lives. Because entrepreneurship is really hard. I mean, you know how hard it is. That's why you call it the battlefield, right? This founder's battlefield. It's a really hard journey. It does affect your personal life. So we discuss how it is affecting our personal lives and how are we navigating our personal lives, and kind of just sharing between each other kind of really helps a lot. I mean, there are times when like we are broke, we have no money. I never thought in my life I will ever use Fuliza, but that day came a few days ago when I had to use Fuliza. And the third thing we talk about is interpersonal relationship. So if there's anything between our co-founders, because when you're 3 co-founders building it together, there's always going to be kind of difference in opinions. And in my case, all the 3 co-founders, like I'm Indian, my other co-founder is Canadian, my other co-founder is Kenyan. So we come from different cultures, different backgrounds. So the Shane, who's Canadian, comes from investment banking. You worked in World Bank, worked in private equity. Come from your side of the world, and I am like just like an optimistic entrepreneur, and John is like this amazing software developer. So we're different with different people. And when you have 3 different personalities, obviously there's going to be like difference in opinions and clashes. And what happens is we don't say those things out. We said, okay, we have a larger thing in mind, and let's like let those things slide away and then, work it out on its own. But it never works out on its own. It stays with you. So as co-founders, we talk about, like, sometimes we'll have a really sensitive conversation about equity split between the co-founders. Even though we've kind of all decided on certain things, sometimes it comes up, like, why do I have less equity than you, for example? And these are very sensitive conversations. No one wants to have it. Okay, the person who has less equity, the person who has more equity, both feel very uncomfortable with this conversation. But we have given ourselves a license to create an environment where we can have really uncomfortable conversations with each other without fear of judgment at all. So I think like these 3, and board advisory, we don't have board advisory. I think like with 3 co-founders with our backgrounds, we got like most of the stuff covered that you need an advisor for. I'm an entrepreneur. I have Shane who does fundraising, finance, legal, HR, and then we have John who does software development. So we have such a gifted, like I'm really, really blessed that I have such a really good kind of comprehensive founding team that I don't think we've kind of needed. From a consulting perspective, I have read the McKinsey way very early on in my life. I generally like the frameworks these guys use in McKinsey. So I use some of those frameworks I learned during the reading period with McKinsey, and I think I've found them very, very helpful. But I think I agree with you that most time, more often than not, consultants don't have enough context. But it is also not their problem. They were not invited into your internal functioning. So like when we hired my own coach to kind of do some work with my team members, she spent a month with us. Like, this called something or CEO shadowing. We got a guy who just like shadowed me for 7 days. He was just sitting quietly, watching me, the way I run the business. So he was watching body language of people. So you have to kind of really integrate people into your organizations as consultants, just like they're seen such outsiders. They're not brought in. I don't know whose mistake is that. Like, if I ever want to use a consultant, say, you got to spend a lot of time with my team, to be able to give us advice, to get context, and everything.
So even in all that, as you're saying, it's a culture you're building. So if you think about everything you talked about, you're trying to build the cradle way.
Yeah.
Yeah? The Elon Musk way, right? Everybody seems to have their way. Even Jeff Bezos had a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, or has a way.
Yeah.
Jobs has a way, right?
Yeah.
People may say Jobs was arrogant or whatever, but he ended up building the most amazing organization, right? People say Bezos, yes, whatever. Today he's building one of the largest companies there is, and all these are not easy people to work with.
Yeah, they're not.
I would doubt that those are easy people to work with.
Yeah.
But why is there an expectation that a founder should almost be like your mother and father? Because then they go out in the world and say, look at that guy, that Manish guy is out of control. Is that correct? But then when they leave their house, they realize there are potholes. Okay. They realize there's so much chaos out there. When they come to your organization, you try and remove that chaos in their life and say, guys, whatever you saw out there, that is out there. In my company, there are no potholes. okay? And they say you're a crazy guy, right? How do you balance that between, because sometimes you need Manish to go out of his crazy way to become the jobs, to drive his employees who are naturally maybe from Kenya as a culture to become more global, right? Right? How do you drive that change, and how do you know, and how do you make sure that, how do you comfort? Now that's a question to you really, you guys. When you go and talk to a founder and you've been told by the employees, that guy, how do you balance between that guy, the reality of what, maybe he's doing the right thing, maybe it's just culturally uncomfortable for the employees because they're used for potholes down there, they're so used to how life works in our country, a lot of mediocrity in certain areas. So they expect that mediocrity should also creep into the organization. So when you choose to push against that mediocrity, then they say you're a bad guy. How then do you advise when you come to a company? You've said you start ground up.
Yes.
Me, I said I do not want mediocrity. Okay? So my argument has always been, I tell my consultant, I think you want me to become mediocre so that I can now conform to this setup. How do you balance that?
I would look at it in this way. The founder knows what he wants. So we have to now get people to align with what he wants, or get him people who will align, because that is where culture comes in. There's some people, there's no amount of training that will get them out of that pothole mentality. So you have also to be able to let people who are not working within your culture, his culture, Steve Jobs' culture, is a culture you don't want anybody to come change. You either come and conform or you're out. But what happens with founders, I have noticed, they're also a bit afraid. Maybe your best worker is not conforming to your culture. So I think a shift, if we can allow them, if we can pick the ones who are teachable, who are malleable towards our culture. So you have to know your culture first. I think that is the basic. What is the culture of this company? Who is the best fit? As the founder, co-founder, you have to also be able to say, what would I want? What is the best fit for this? Why did I employ this person? You can find a very good salesperson, but in your culture, they're not fitting in because they are a drain to the other people. So I believe the first thing you do, you define what do you want in your company, who will fit in. Then we start looking for these people. It is also very hard to fire, but nowadays I'm finding it a bit, if you're not doing what we want, we can let you go. We get people who, that is my thought, we get people who will grow with us, who will fit into our culture, who will improve on our culture. Because, like you've said, there's a lot of mediocrity in this country sometimes. We're entitled. I feel some of our employees are also a bit entitled. So they come knowing I have come from the biggest corporate. Have you ever had somebody tell you, in my previous job, this is what we did. You're trying to give this is our cultural fit, this is where we are going to, but they tell you in our previous job. So you have to actually balance between who will stay and who will go at the end of the day. And that is the surgery that is needed in most companies. But we are afraid of doing that. We are like, let us hang on, maybe they will change, maybe they will improve. But I'm sometimes a believer in remove the part that is not working so that we continue with this culture.
But again, it's an interesting point you've raised in terms of confronting brutal realities. Yes. as an entrepreneur. And that also brings me to the conversation that we've been thinking as founders, and I've been trying to understand.
Sorry, Mike, can I talk about mediocrity a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I have also deeply reflected on mediocrity. So I think I have seen mediocrity as a result of two reasons. One is that you are not in the right role fit. Yeah. So you could have been really good at a certain role, but you were just hired into a role that you're not a good fit for. Or you may have, if you think about, how kind of people get into their careers, they'll take the first job that is available out of university. They don't think that, is this the right role for me or the right, like if there's a job opening, I'll apply. So when we were hiring for a education counselor, I saw we got like 100 CVs from people who have never ever done remotely anything close to education, because there's a real unemployment, there's a real employment crisis here, right? So a lot of people get into jobs because that is the only job available that is going to pay them money, and hence they start working in roles that they are not fit for. So I have seen personally where we've seen people who are not, we don't just call them like people who perform, people don't perform. Like, it's as simple as that. So people who are not performing are typically people who are not suited for the role that they were hired for. So that was a hiring problem to start with. And the second thing that, and I think I really, really strongly feel about that, I mean, we are expecting people to be star performers, but what is in it for them to be a star performer? So when all large organizations I've worked with, they've worked in a very simple structure of annual performance reviews. And typically annual performance reviews will give you like 2 or 3 bands of increment. So 5% is inflation adjustment. Like, even if you've done like nothing much, you still get a 5%. If you're like a decently good employee, you get like a 10%, and then you get a 20%. So think about someone who's making, let's say, 50,000 shillings a month. It's like, if he does really, really well, his best case scenario is to get like a 10,000 raise. After tax, I'm going to get 6,000, 7,000. So you're expecting these people to be star performers. You're expecting them to work like founders and CEOs in that mindset. But what is in it for them? Like, look at your own side, your own compensation, see your compensation, right? If you were to do really, really well, imagine the amount of bonus your board will award you. So what we did was that, we did really an audit of saying like, are these the right people for this job? So I think that eliminated a lot of like non-performers. So mediocrity was like weeded out. And the second thing we said was we have our kind of incentive reward structure is very interesting. It's like you either get massively rewarded or you don't get rewarded at all. So we don't have like a 5-10%, rule or 15-20% rule. So we had employees whose salaries have grown 400% in 2 years. Like substantially grown. We have people who have come very close to founder salaries now because they are exceptionally great performers. So let them also understand. So now what happened was when we did it for a few people, it's like, oh my God, because they're not used to this. They're not used to getting their salary increment of 500% in 2 years. They've never used to it, but now they're seeing it is happening. It has created like this massive, wild, cult culture of like high performance. Okay, so in our organization, it's like you're either a really high performer or you don't fit in this organization. So you're creating an organization of high performance altogether.
But okay, let me ask, sorry, can I ask
Sure,
a question?
yeah, let it be.
Yes, because you first had to get rid of the non-performers, isn't it? How did you get rid of the non-performers?
So non-performers was our problem again.
Yes.
We hired wrong people for the wrong roles. We didn't go through the hiring process properly. So someone said he's a great guy. Yes. We didn't evaluate. So, where the mistake we used to make was we used to hire on CVs. Like I was telling for outside that I haven't looked at CVs for the last 2 years. Like I haven't looked at anyone's CV. Like if you ask me like people that have hired where they have worked before, I have no idea. Okay, so we don't hire on CVs, we hire on values. So we've created so for me, culture is a set of values and anti-values. So we call it values and anti-values. What is culture? It's a set of values and anti-values. What is a value? I used to always struggle, like everyone says, what are your values? So my course simplified it for me. What do you value the most? That is your value. So for me, I value freedom. Okay, I value impact and change. Okay, so what do you value as co-founders is your values, but we also created anti-values. What we don't value, what we despise. So for example, our anti-values, we are not a 9-to-5 culture. So if you're coming saying that I'm going to tick box, come in the morning, check out at 5 o'clock, we are not that organization. Which doesn't mean that we want you to work on Saturdays and Sundays. What it only means is that if push comes to the shove and things are not going as the way we plan to, you will commit to working on a Saturday or a Sunday. If a student calls you on a Sunday morning, says, I need help, you will not refuse. But that doesn't mean, in fact, I told my team, I don't care you work even 1 day a week or 2 days a week, as long as you achieve what you have to achieve. So when you say we're not a 9-to-5 culture, people assume it means that I have to work after 5 o'clock and I have to work Saturday, Sunday. I said, we are not a 9-to-5 also means you could be doing 9 to 1. It could also mean the other way around. It doesn't mean that you have to work beyond 5. So we had to explain that to people. Now people get it now. So we've created a set of values that what we value as an organization, as co-founders, because we set the tone, and then things that we do not value. So we're not a remote culture. We'll never be a remote culture. We are very clear with that. I mean, there's a whole debate on, allowing people to work remotely. Yeah, it doesn't work for us. We are touchy-feely people. We are emotional. We like social organization. I like to see my people. They like to see us. We engage. We coach each other. We mentor each other. We are touchy-feely organization. We like to work in person. So we create our values and anti-values. And I think now we hire on values and anti-values. Okay. So we explain them what does it mean to work in Cradle. So my typical hiring process would be, once I find someone I really, really want to hire. So like, we call it like, I am desperate to hire this person. Like, this person has to be so good. First, we get them really excited and inspired about Cradle. Like, this is like the best place to work. Look at what we are doing. We're changing the world for good. Okay? The big problem we are trying to solve. So we could get them excited. Once now they are bought in, then we tell them it's a horrible place to work. We do everything. So first we do everything to sell the place. Then we do everything to de-sell the place. I said working Cradle is like chewing glass every day. Okay? And we tell them like, it can be really, really hard to work at Cradle, okay? But by the way, we pay best in market salaries. So we have always made sure, if you want top talent, you have to pay them top. Like, we don't agree that you have, you can get the best talent with paying low money. We pay like 50%, 100% above market to everyone else. And we incentivize very well. So we first sell them and then we de-sell to them. And then we see, is this guy still ready to work with us, or this girl is still ready to work with us. And typically when you do it like this, you get the best people to work with you. So if you hire well, you won't have the problem of non-performance to start with, because you've done, and of course sometimes you get it wrong, like sometimes you get it wrong. The second thing we did was what you said, Michael, we remove mid-management. We said we don't want people who need to be managed. Like, the job of managers is to manage people. Like, but why manage people? So we have doers and we have founders. Like, we have no other person in this organization. There are people who do, who contribute in clear functional ways to the organization, and then we have founders. So I think removing, and then we were victim to this. Like, we're like, we need to have a CEO, we need to have this person or that person. No. It didn't work for us. We removed everyone. I think at some point we may need, we always in every founder meeting, it's like, Manish, at what point do you think we need a CEO now? Well, that time is not yet come.
Yeah, I'd just like to follow up from some of those things. And I actually think as we were sitting talking about culture, it is the values. And I think we give a lot of, the values, you put them up and they sit somewhere else. I work a lot with organizations to actually put them visually and actually be real living values. Like, a lot of people say integrity, what the hell does that mean? So I think, culture is in the values. The other thing, as you talked about it, was compensation is key. How are you attracting them? You attracted them with housing, a lot of the startups I've worked with, or when I'm attracting high talent to startups, or even to myself, it's like, what is in it for them? There's an ownership piece. So do they get stock options? Like, what are you doing? How are you paying them? And then really the work of search firms like myself is talking to those people you've identified that are with your competitor, and how do you get them? And that's really, sometimes you can't go that way. But I totally agree with the CV. Half of it is even how authentic is it? Like, and that's the point. You need to be vetting those. That's why we're here. We don't go through. I go through a CV. Actually, what I find is a lot's not on the CV. What you find out about the person that fits the culture is not on the CV. That's where the interviewing comes in. So these are things, and I think what you also spoke about earlier, which I really liked, and I'm going back a bit, was this thing where you have these small groups where the CEOs, in interviewing a lot of CEOs, which I do, that's my job, to understand leadership, what makes a good leader, what changes from when you're scaling up an entrepreneur organization. And the two things you're working with are either people or systems. Yeah. And there's that inflection point in entrepreneurial ventures. But that's what it is. It all comes down to communication. And communication starts breaking down as you grow numbers. And so in speaking to a lot of these leaders who've been effective leaders and grown organizations, the thing has been that when you're a small startup, you're all drinking the Kool-Aid, the vision, even though it's a crazy founder whose baby you're managing, you're all very close, intimate. What starts doing is, as you scale and grow, breaking down. Yeah. And that's where the leadership of the people you're hiring to manage, their ability to translate the vision, the strategy, where you're going, that's what breaks down. And that's why then you need even better communication. So being able to navigate those through staying small and not being highly systemized and structured, but having the smaller groups to communicate constantly, which you do, or putting in those structures. And I think so it's been really because I sit on both sides. I run my business and I run it like a very lean machine. When do you hire? All of that. So I see that side, but I'm also helping organizations, and I speak to a lot of organizations going through these pains. So I really like some of the things you're doing, and definitely the CVs are not what we look at either. We'll get a CV, but you need to go behind the CV, and that's where all the gems are behind the CV.
Which I think also now, even with AI, your CV will do significant level of be validated and even go further and check.
Most leadership programs are built for stable systems, clear rules, predictable institutions, high trust.
What are high trust environments? It's a handshake, it's a table.
But that's not the terrain most leaders are operating in. Here, trust is fragile.
We cannot accept this brand because it doesn't have the wording